Hi, welcome to Hope in the Light of Suicide. I'm Tammy White. I'm the founder of the Bobby White Foundation. You can see our little grins. We both were
things that happen before the camera starts rolling. Good morning, I'm Bonnie Snyder. Welcome.
Welcome to Hope in the Light of Suicide. Like always, we first want to thank, of course, Rob and John from Area 52 Media Group, our sponsors for this show so far. If you want to sponsor our show, please contact us at the foundation or on Facebook, or there's a million ways you can get a hold of us.
Exactly. Sponsors are nice. We like sponsors.
Yeah, sponsors would be nice. So it's been a crazy week, but we just got Valentine's Day weekend, or week, this week. How was your day? It was the anniversary of Aiden.
You know, there are some, we've talked about this on, several occasions of how, everybody processes loss differently. Mm-hmm. There are, some of us that, curl up in a ball and go into a corner and, it's like, I don't want to come out anymore because I'm, that overwrought with grief. And then there are others that, there's a mixed bag of, anniversaries, mm-hmm. such as that. And then there are others that it's like, it's that day, but it's just another day. But I typically take the day off. More so, I think for me, it's more for being there for other family members than it is, it's kind of, for myself as well. But for me, the day was very cathartic because there are times where I want to do things around the house, get, stuff done. And, between, coalition work and my regular work and, and then, of course, the joys of home ownership. I find that there's not enough hours in the day to get done with what I want to get done. And so I spent Valentine's Day just, doing, little stuff around the house. Part of it, take my mind off of, what's going on, with my knee. But, also too, to kind of reflect on what the day was and be there for family. So I spent a good part of the day. I talked to Carl and hey, how are you doing? And we talked a little bit and it's like reached out, Kira and I communicated back and forth a little bit. Aiden's siblings, or his sister, one of his sisters, I should say, his multiple sisters. But then I was struck by all of the memories that, flooded my social media page. It was just one right after another, after another, after another. And I was like, oh, I remember when I posted that. I felt bad. One friend, somebody, that I recently befriended, and I had, put on my, shared a memory on my page that said, I wish today were Wednesday and all of this never happened, or something like that. And this particular friend, they posted to it, but it is Wednesday with a bunch of laughing emojis. Then I said something afterwards. And I'm looking at, this, it is Wednesday, the laughing emojis and what he put afterwards. And I immediately, was aware of the fact that he doesn't know what the post meant.
Right.
So I private messaged, I sent a private message to him, and I was like, hey, just kind of want to let you know what that post meant. And, immediately he was like, oh my God. And I felt so bad because, he just could not apologize enough. And I'm like, dude, look, it's okay. You didn't know.
You didn't know, right.
And I said, I get it. And he was like, I'm sorry. I was like, no. I said, we've been friends for several months now. But I feel like I've known this person like for decades. But, he was just like, I'm sorry. He's like, oh my God, I feel like, I was like, I feel like crap. And I'm like, no, it's okay. You didn't know. But he was like, I deleted it. But I also, as best how I did this, I felt my garage floor. I've been like trying to organize my. I think we shared boo times. That was Pat and I.
Right.
My project with Pat. We'd go out and clean the garage and whatnot. I actually found my garage, and I'm like, my neighbor and my best friend. He's drives by after work, and he was like, okay, now he's been my neighbor for 6 years now. I want to say, because Pat's been gone for 4. He knew, Pat was here when so I want to say at least 5-6 years he's been a neighbor.
Mm-hmm.
And he just looks at me, he was like, I don't think I've ever seen your garage floor before. And so I'm laughing and I was like, yeah. But I think for me, when you ask like, how did the day go? I found myself lost in, just focusing on something to, I don't say keep my mind on. But I found myself having to step back later on that I was so focused on what I was doing that I didn't realize that, oh my gosh, so this is what my garage looks like when it's fully organized. And of course in my head was like, all right, Pat, I'm going to see how long I can keep the garage like this before it's a mess again. So yeah, that's pretty much how I spent the day, cleaning house. I changed an electrical outlet on the outside of my house, and the joke from that is I did turn the electricity off to do it. I did an inside outlet, and I didn't turn the electric. I didn't get shocked. It's like, why don't you turn the electricity off? It's like, if I don't touch the wires, I don't have to worry about getting shocked. Just saying. But seriously, don't try that. Don't try that at y'all's home, folks. That's me.
Yeah, really.
But no, it was like I said, it was a very nice, relaxing. I didn't, other than just losing myself in doing stuff around the house. It was good.
That's good. That's cool. Yeah, I had a memory pop up, and it was weird because I didn't realize that it was from like 9 years ago, because like to me it was like just before Bobby passed away or something, and it was a picture of him. I had made him my cousin had showed me this, made him this little thing, and it has those, the boxes of the little heart candies with the sayings and stuff in it. And the original post said everything that he did that morning of Valentine's Day, and I was like, wow, I can't believe it's been 9 years since he did that. And we're coming up on 7 years since he's been gone, and Valentine's Day was the last card that I ever got from him when he passed away. But I don't even remember most of my day today of that day, except for I was like, well, normally we would have like steak and baked potato or something. So I was like, why don't you just go to the store and go? So I went and did a little shopping, came home and just kind of chilled with the cats. But then I was like, I didn't even feel like cooking, so I'd throw it in the freezer, and I'm like, we'll do this another day. But too, I've been doing things around the house and getting my fence finished, and little odd.
I saw that your Valentine's gift to yourself.
My
was the fence, and I'm looking. I was like, oh my gosh, you did an amazing job on this.
Yeah, that was what it was. That's what I did. Valentine's Day is I spent the day finishing the fence, and I still got some touch up things to do. But I was like, yeah, why don't you do that? And it looks really pretty nice.
It does. I mean, seeing the pictures of it, I was like, wow. Because I've seen the fence before, what you did now, and I was like, that looks really good.
Yeah. So that's what I couldn't remember. That's what I spent the day doing. I was like, because Bobby originally built that fence, and so I wanted to build it back as much as I could the way that he did it. I couldn't get the exact same wood, but somebody's going to go through it again anyways. But it felt good to have it just finally done, because it was like 60 feet of fencing that she took out. Now the gate is still a little bit hard to maneuver, but yeah. So yeah, that was my Valentine's Day gift to me.
And, I think it's something to be said about, projects and whatnot when we're, I'm gonna refer to them as milestones. I remember, like, for instance, Pat's room. He was like, I'm gonna completely remodel Pat's room, and obviously, I shouldn't say obviously. It was a project that we started before he left, and I was like, I'm going to finish it afterwards. And, like, for me, I step back and as I'm looking at it, I'm like, wow, I think he would really like this. But then I'm looking at, I was talking to my daughter, the remodel of his room affected her very differently than it did me. Her thing was, it's like he's been erased. And I was like, what are you talking about? And she goes, his stuff is not hung up anymore. And of course I'm thinking, what are you talking about? I'm thinking, all right, there's one TV hanging on the wall instead of 5. Well, I'm not a gamer, so I would put 5 TVs on the wall. I'd say notorious, but he was, ball caps. He loved ball caps. And we used to have, he used to have a hook, in 2 corners of his room. And he was like, Mom, I need some way to display my hat so they don't, get crushed or whatnot. This boy, I should say boy, he was, was a man, but to me, he was always going to be my little boy. He was very meticulous about, his, everything had to match, shoes, socks, underwear. I'm almost certain that this boy matched his underwear to what he was wearing. But anyway, he had this, I bought the, like, plastic linked chains. And, we hung them from, like, his ceiling, down the corners. And he would clip the ball caps into this chain, to keep the ball caps. Well, I didn't put the ball caps back up. And, and then my daughter was a little upset with me. She goes, you didn't put his ball caps back up. And I had to sit back and I think about this. Wow, I didn't realize that not having his ball caps up bothered you that much. But yeah, it was something that, gosh, would he approve? And I think the answer would be yes. But I think it also symbolizes, I don't want to say life goes on. And, for me, I did this, in memory of him. And for the longest time, no one occupied that room. It's like, the boys came, the kids came over to sleep, they would all cram in the back bedroom. No one would sleep in, well, that's Uncle Pat's room. We can't sleep in there. But, to your point about, the fence, it's like I couldn't find the original wood, and for me, I look at it as, all right, we couldn't find the original wood. There's new wood, that's, signifies the newness of the reality that we're living in, which I think is very, if I think of from a mental health perspective, it's very helpful for us, or anybody, as they're navigating through, the suckiness of life.
Well, like, as a part of an example of that too is, because I haven't really changed that much in our house since he's been gone. A couple little things, but I had decided to paint the front living room, which is now the foundation office, and just that main little hallway to the bathroom and where that kind of kitchen area is. And I got pretty far. I'm not like totally done, but this was like 2 years ago. I started freaking out because I was like, at first I was good, and then I was like, I'm changing things, I'm changing the color, and then I had to stop. And so I still have like a ceiling fan to put up. I have another coat of paint to do. And then now it's like my refrigerator is giving me fits, and it's like, you're going to have to start doing this stuff. I'm going to have to get a new refrigerator. And it's not that, our refrigerator is only 13 years old. But I've already replaced the ice maker thing. I had to replace that. And now something else is going wrong with it. And I'm like, it's just going to keep going. I'm going to have to start doing these projects and doing these changes. So I've been out looking at flooring to finish the floor that we hadn't finished. I'm going to have to get new appliances. I'm going to have to do this. I'm going to have to do that. And it's just like, now this is going to be, like, probably this year, the biggest change within the house since he passed away. And it's going to be so much different. But it's like the flooring as an example. I can't find the flooring that we put that flooring down together in the bedrooms. Well, it was just before he was diagnosed with cancer, and it was like 2007 or 8 when we did it. Well, I can't get the flooring to match for the rest of the house, and I've been trying for like 2 years. And I was at one place, and the guy says, well, can you just take that flooring out and put this flooring in? And I was like, well, you don't get it. I said, my husband and I put that flooring down. And so then I thought about it a little bit, and I'm like, you can do that. It's like, why don't you take the flooring from those 2 bedrooms, and you can put that flooring in the craft gallery office room at the other side of the house. You still have the flooring, you still have the memory, and the rest of the house will have the same flow, with the regular flooring. But it took me 2 years to get to that point.
And I think, what I find with that is, often the struggle is, if I change things dramatically, in some ways it symbolizes that I've erased the person that's not here anymore. Or, and it kind of, in conversation, that I had, with my daughter on the spot here, with her, but it was, for her, it was, she felt as if he was not significant. And so, basically, he was erased from his own room.
Right.
And I explained to her, I was like, oh. And I think sometimes I should say sometimes, it's important for us, erase the word sometimes, it's important for us to acknowledge, and again, we talk about this over and over and over here, how things affect people differently. And I looked at her and I said, I was not aware of, how you felt, because I got to points where it's like, daughter, how come you don't come over anymore? Like, I don't, like, we used to kind of, she'd come to my house for a bit, or, holidays, she would come over and, she'd stay for a bit and she'd sleep. But then I found, there was a period of time where she would come over, and, 10, 15 minutes later, I'm leaving. Well, hey, you just got here, it's
Right.
like, where she
And
lives
it's
now.
not as though she lived that
No,
close.
I mean, even when she didn't live as far away, like, now, within the last 2 years, I think it is, the first 2 years, she lived closer to, to where I'm at. For the last 2 years, she's a little further away. And I'm like, you don't spend much time here. And it took her a little while to, acknowledge. It's hard to look at the room because it's not his room anymore. And I was like, oh, wow. And, so we, we're having a conversation about it. And, at some points, the conversation did get a little heated. This is how I feel. It's like, I understand how you feel. I mean, I get it. I'm, didn't understand how you felt about this. At the same time, however, much like when I hear you say, when you're, doing things on the roof or you're doing things in the yard and you have these conversations with Bobby, you're like, dude, you're supposed to be doing this, not me.
I had that conversation with a fence, too.
See what you left me with. And for me, I feel that when we are doing things and we're calling up the memory, or I do it when I'm doing the garage. Hey, dude, I'm at the garage again. It's like, all right, let's see how long this is gonna, take place. Or I, say, it never fails. the dragonfly didn't. It's interesting. I didn't get a dragonfly this time when I'm doing the garage, but I happened to look up and there was a little red bird flying around in my. And I was like,
cool.
oh, okay. So you must have been
cardinal,
eating.
yeah.
You must have been eating good. Today. But these little
Right.
symbols that we see, and again, it was like. I get it. You're not here physically, but you're here in spirit because there's still a part of you. Like there was always a part of me when I'm doing the garage. There's always a part of me when I'm, as I'm looking at, the remodel in the room and whatnot, because I know he would have been there. Every step of the way. What do you think about this? Picking out the colors for the walls. What do you think about this color? I like this color. What do you think about this? Because again, for me, it was a year. I think it was a year. I remember going and getting 2 paint samples, and I took a little paintbrush and I put 2 swatches on the wall. The walls were white beforehand. And I was like, what do you think of those 2 colors? And I was just looking at them. And, I would go and it's like, I'm going to cover these paint swatches, eventually. But yeah, it's, I think if we look at it, we're not erasing the person. We are, I don't want to, and it's like upgrading. Wait a minute now. Well, I don't want to upgrade from the person. It's just we continue to honor. I'm doing
we
this.
just do it in different ways. And the reality of it really is it's probably something you'd be doing anyways.
Exactly.
Even if they were still here.
Exactly.
And that's what I am trying to get, wrapped around my head. And I have to tell you, it was funny because when I was finishing up the fence Tuesday, I got the boards up and I just put like 1 screw in on each side. So they were up. And then I went back and I was drilling the holes and putting the rest of the screws in, and I was putting the tools in the cart, the back of the tractor, and all of a sudden a little hawk comes flying through and just flew through, just like to say, okay, you did, good job. And it's weird how things like that happen.
Oh yeah.
But I was like, oh wow, that makes me feel so much better! Yay!
Yeah, I
improve.
Exactly. I love the little reminders that we get. I love the. To me, I look at them as the signs from above that they're still with us, in some way, shape, or form.
And they let you know, and when they let you know of, it's like their approval of how you're continuing on. I heard a quote, man, just a little while ago, and I knew it was going to fly out of my head. And it was something about like when you have a loved one pass away and you continue to live. You're continuing to live for both of you.
Yes.
It's something like that. I'm not wording it exactly right, but I was like, I just heard it. Like I was on my way down here or something, and I was like, oh, yeah. And it's probably something that we kind of know and we've dealt with and thought of, since our loved one's passing. But you don't, when you're in the midst of some of this stuff, sometimes you don't think of it that way.
No, you don't. I think I find too when you're, thinking of, loved ones carrying on other people's reactions to what you're doing, because it made me think, here recently, one of my neighbors, had come over and we're just, sitting in my living room chit-chatting. And I forget how the conversation was going, but, I happened to talk. We were talking about Pat because her son and, Devin, are good friends. And, I was like, and I was like, yeah, I said, no, I said, Devin's dad, we're here with this. And, it's funny how, whenever I say, Devin's dad was here, if my son was here, we're doing something like that, this neighbor looked at me and she's like, oh, like, where is he? Or something like that. Or somehow, the question, I'm just sitting in my living room very casually, and I sit back and I look at it
no.
now.
Oh, no.
I look at it now and it's kind of like, did I really do that? But seriously, I'm sitting in my living room and, it's like, oh, if his dad was here, the boys had gotten into something. And I was like, yeah. Where is he? Just right up there. And she looked at me for a moment and she's like, what? And I said, yeah, I see that picture of that box, the brown box with the picture on it. And I said, yeah, the picture of that's Devin's dad. And he was like, what? And I said, he's in that box. And she looked at me for a minute, like this look on her face was like, what? And I'm like, and I get it. It kind of caught her off guard.
Right.
And I said, no, it's up there. But then conversely, my best friend, he has his dad's ashes, and in his house there's a fireplace. So I have a pot shelf. He's it has it's dad ashes, and he'd had them on the mantle above the fireplace. And he comes in, and he's like, where'd my dad go? And his wife was like, no, this doesn't belong in the house. So his dad is sitting in the garage, in the garage on the shelf. And it's like we're having a conversation about this. And but then I get it, his wife is foreign born. And she was, it's a cultural thing. Mm-hmm. And then she talked about how the conversation was like, when are you going to give your father a proper burial? And it's like, no, keeping his, one of his ashes with me, we keep the ashes. And I was not aware of this, I wasn't, however, what she was saying, where she's from, I think cremation is a thing, but the ashes get, interned
Still good
afterwards. Yeah. And so, it made for a very interesting conversation in terms of, no, this is wrong. Like this is disrespectful to your dad to have his ashes in the house. They should be, supposed to, and I'm like, oh my God, wow. So I looked at her and I said, so I shouldn't tell you that that box in my living room. And, they thought, and of course my friend, he looked at me, he goes, oh, wait a minute, because he just saw the flowers. He goes, I just thought that was like a memorial that I had set up for He goes, I didn't realize that Patrick's up there with me. And I said, no, there, Patrick's urn is up there on that shit there, like that brown box, that's him. And he was like, oh, wow. But of course then it became, see, if she's got his up there, I can have my dad's up there. And I was like, oh, it's okay. But, again, I like these, kinds of conversations with people because it's one of the things where it sucks, but I'm okay.
But, yeah, I mean, my dad, in his office at the house, he had the ashes of a dog and his cat. And they're still in his office. And when my dad passed away, my mom put my dad's ashes on the mantle of the fireplace. And I'm assuming that they're still there. So in a conversation with my sister, we were, what are we going to do? Of course, mom has been cremated. And so we came up with, I think, what we're going to do. Because the house probably within this year is going to be leveled, and mom didn't want anybody else ever living there, and the property is going to be sold. Well, but they love that property, and they've been there, mom, for 50 years. Mm-hmm. So I told my sister, I said, well, at first we thought, well, let's talk to Garrett. Maybe we can get his ashes spread up at the racetrack. And then thinking about it later, I'm like, no, but he's got his dog and his cat there too. So I told my sister, I said, why don't we just spread Dad's ashes on the property with his cat and his dog? And part of Mom's ashes will go there with Dad, and the other part is going to go with her boyfriend at the cemetery. But I have Bobby's, his are sitting on his nightstand on his side of the bed. So he's always there every day, But everybody has different ways, and cultures do everything different. My mother and father-in-law were cremated, but their ashes are buried up at Bushnell. My father was in the military, so they're both there. But, just the same thing. They're still cremated, but they're still, buried. But
Yeah, I think my former mother-in-law, she wanted to be, she didn't want to service. She, when we lost her, one of her things was she did not want a funeral where, she didn't want anybody to see her.
yeah, it's the same way with
passed
my mom. Yeah.
And it was family. Like, we were not able to, say goodbye to her. It's like as soon as she passed, cremation was to be instant. I remember correctly.
That was the same way with us.
She was buried with her husband. I never met him. He, died years ago, long before I even met him. But I think he's not cremated, but she is. So his headstone is like he's here, and then on this side of the headstone, they dug the hole for her ashes. But speaking of that, I want to take a minute to ask for prayers for the Snyder family.
I saw you posted something this morning, and
we recently lost my brother-in-law Dave. Mike, depending on, it's one of those things where in certain
I
families.
was like, okay, wait a minute, wasn't it a different name on there?
No, it was, it is. It says Dave, but interesting thing about my family does it too. Depending upon who you asked or who you're talking to, some people know us by our first name. Some people know us by our middle names. Like in my family, if you say Bonni or my legal name Bonita, they think you're talking about my cousin, who I'm,
Oh, really?
I'm her. I call her namesake, although I'm her namesake, and we talked about this before. But if you say Bonni, people think that we're talking about my cousin. They don't know. A lot of people don't realize that they're talking about me. If you say Trish, my middle name, being Patricia, if you say Patricia or Trish, then, they know you're talking about me, is kind of thing. Well, on the Snyder side of the family, it's the same way. Some family, some of the, people are known by the first name. Most, the guy, I say mostly with the boys, except for like my ex-husband and the younger brother, they're known strictly by first name. But the older boys, it's one or the other. So Dave or Mike, depending upon who's talking to him. But we lost him a couple of days ago. It was very, any loss is devastating. However, we lost another sibling 2 years ago, his sister-in-law Sharon. And so it was hard on the family losing him. I was shocked when I saw it. I was like, whoa, I didn't even know that he was ill. But
we'll keep
the Snyder family in prayers. As it was, it's a devastating loss to the family.
On kind of a bright side, you don't have surgery Tuesday.
I was thinking about that. Yes.
So you'll get to be in the studio.
I will be there, and I will be able to should be able to be in the mixer.
Yes. Yes, Tuesday the 21st at Slice of Life Pizzeria, we have Reuters is putting on a mixer fundraiser. It's from 5 to 7. And we're going to have raffle drawings, and it's $5 and they put out a spread of salads and pizza and gnarly other stuff. It's really good.
Gnarly stuff?
Yeah, I can't remember what you call them.
The naughty bread?
Yeah, something like that. They're stuffed with stuff.
Okay. It's like gnarly stuff.
Yeah. So it's always a really good time. Everybody's in the community is invited. We always have a really good time there. So they kind of we're raising of course money for the foundation, but we're raising money primarily right now to have our purple folders. This will be our third revision, our third edition of the purple folders. Done. Everything's at the printer, just waiting to be paid. So hopefully within the next few weeks we'll have the new inserts and have the new purple folders available. We still have some at the foundation office, though, and I'm sure that some of our community partners that are listed on our website, Deborah Diaz, she's a lawyer in town, Hook Law Group, Newport Richey, Port Richey, and Dade City Police Departments, Medical Center of Trinity Behavioral Health, and is it Spring Gardens? It's the rehab. Is it Spring Gardens? Spring Gardens, they also have some too. I think that's most of the ones that I can remember off the top of my head. But anyway, there's a list of them on our website that also have some available. So there's the list of them. So if you can't, get them from us, and it's easier that any of these other locations are closer, you can just get a hold of them, and they have them available.
Yeah, I was looking, looking at the blessings in disguise. The blessings in disguise is, having this postponed, and it was funny. So when I got the email, it was like, we've got to postpone your surgery. And I'm like, I was prepped for this in a way.
I know. Well, you get ready for it.
Well, I mean, I was, I looked at, the groups that I work with, and, my contacts. All right, guys, I'm going to put groups, telling them, the kids that I work with, all right, Miss Bonnie's going to be out for a while. And of course, my kiddos were like, oh, why? And so I just explained to them surgery.
That just reminded me, though, too, Gabriel's filming his thing. I'll have to find out when that.
Oh, yeah, we did talk about that.
That was supposed to be, that's in March. I'll have to find out what his dates are.
Yeah, well, I mean,
I mean, you can sit, if it's like, I think he was like talking maybe around the 13th. It'll probably be a week or so out from your surgery.
Oh, yeah, that's
so
fine.
We should still be able to, I'll have to see. I haven't heard from him since our initial thing to see if he's got to get everything all scheduled.
But no, it was interesting. The reason for the delay is it has to be done in this particular hospital, not in this particular hospital. And I'm like, okay, So, but the nice thing is, it's after my birthday.
Well, that'll be good.
So I'm like, I don't have to spend my birthday recuperating
all
from
laid
surgery.
Up from surgery.
And I was like, oh yeah, that's nice. That frees me up to. I'm not bummed now about not being able.
Well,
to
yeah,
be,
because now you can
I could be
at the
life.
event.
Yes.
So that's.
Yeah.
I know when I saw you post that, I was like, oh, good.
Yeah, because I was bummed that the surgery and the Reuters thing was going to be on the same day. So yeah, it was like somebody up there, they were like, oh, no, you're not missing this event. You're going.
Well, and I'm still waiting to hear back from Freedom Boat Club of Tampa Bay. I sent them like 3 different dates to choose from for our little boating excursion. So as soon as I hear back from them, I didn't check my emails today, I'll get a flyer PDF done up to get out to everybody and to get it on all our information pages. So it'll be the end of March, first part of April. Those are kind of the dates that I help give them a choice instead of just saying, oh, well, we can only do this day. So I sent them like 3 different dates, and so I'm just waiting to hear back from them for that.
It'd be nice it would happen around like when the kids are on spring break.
When is spring break?
The 13th through the 17th of March.
Yeah, see, I put it after that because our photographer, Rick, who does our Art for Hope photography, I asked him to come along to photograph the event, and he's gone that week. But, and I can't remember, she gave me a date too in March that they can't do, but I think it was towards the first of the month. I'll check and see, because, I mean, we can always get somebody else to photograph, or we can all photograph. I just figured to have him there, then we wouldn't have to worry about taking pictures.
Oh, well, no. I mean, I look at, I think for me, what I'm thinking about, spring break, that would be, we're looking at what the event is about, if it's on, if the event happens on a weekday, day, and it's
Yeah,
during
it has to
spring
be,
break,
yeah.
That this would give, kids who will fall into that, category,
Right.
an opportunity. I'm hoping,
Yeah, but I'm sure they'd rather get a day off from school later to go.
parents are cool with that,
I don't know.
Well, I mean, and I think as a, and I would say this as a parent, if I'm like, all right, here is an event that we're doing to, just basically, give you a decompressed day, or a day to,
Right.
Just relax and, take your mind off, or honor, the person that's gone.
Right.
That's one thing. Unfortunately, depending upon what school kids go to, sometimes you have principals who are, that's not a reason, we're not going to excuse that. Which I don't know. I fundamentally have an issue with that. It's like, as a parent, like something we were going away. We were going away for, I think it was, a death in the family. And, the principals, well, you can, that's going to be unexcused or something, whatever it was. And I was
Yeah.
like, I'm the parent. Isn't it up to me to tell you whether or not my child is excused? Like if I'm, as a parent, if I make a decision to keep my child from school, I'm doing it for, there's a reason behind it.
Right.
I should be the one to decide whether or not this absence is excused or not. At the same time, I do get it, if a kid's grades are suffering, then principals are like, we're not excusing this because they're supposed to be in school. I don't want to get snarkly.
Well, and I don't haven't had kids in school, but it's like, to me, it's like, who are you to say what's important to our family or my child than us,
Yep.
It's like the same thing. Everybody grieves differently. Everybody handles, different situations differently.
Or we, for at the coalition, the students that we took out of school for the 2 days for the Tallahassee
Right.
trip, there was a note that went to school that said, these children are not in school because they're up in Tallahassee
Right.
talking to, legislature, representatives and senators, and I'm like, is this going to, is this going to count as an absence against the kids, or is it going to count as they were present in school because of what they were doing,
Right.
But I can see some principals saying it's an unexcused absence because they shouldn't have missed school. Yeah. Anyway.
It's a good thing I don't work in that because I wouldn't probably do very well with my opinions.
Anyway, how about our new book?
Our new book. Our new book, Finding Meaning: The Sixth Stage of Grief, by David Kessler. He is another wonderful grief expert. He's got a really great interactive website full of information and little things that you can go through if you want to sign up for the Tender Hearts. I think it's like $35 a month. There's like at least 3 during the week online Zoom groups. Some of the groups are like grief specific, such as a death by suicide or a loss of a parent or a loss of a child, or he's just a bunch of stuff. And then some of them are different ones that are together. I know that there's one, I think the one on Monday, I think it's 4 p.m. Eastern time, is like is the grief specific support group. So but he has a lot of free videos and information on the website, and he too, just like our other favorite, Dr. Wolfelt, they come to this and from life experience. Dr. Wolfelt, he lost his best friend several years ago to suicide. David Kessler, he lost his young son. He was around 2021 to, I believe, a drug overdose. And I think he worked in the grief field when this happened too. So both these guys have huge knowledge and experience, and anybody would benefit from any of the books or interactions from their websites or any information that you can glean from these guys. I mean, it's only my personal opinion. I think it's awesome, and I'm really hard to please when it comes to this.
Well, what I like is what Jane Brody from the New York Times said about this particular book. It's a quote it's on the cover of my book. I don't know, it might be on the back of yours.
Yeah, it's on the...
Where she says, the pain of grief is a natural reaction to the loss of someone you love. But, as Mr. Kessler points out, suffering, quote, is what our mind does to us, end quote. And it could be mitigated by finding meaning in what we've lost. And when I read that, I found like this quote, what I just read, this quote. It's like, what am I trying to say?
Or quote,
preview. I mean, that's a better one. Of what the book is about. I thought it was very, extremely powerful. Especially when we're looking at, the purpose of this particular group and that sixth stage of grief. A lot of us, in my field, there's there's a 5 stages of grief,
Right.
that we go to. Now there is another thought process, that suggests that there are actually 7. I prefer the 5 because 2 of them, and the 7 1 2 is really, to me, go hand in hand. But I like when it says that 6th stage of finding meaning. And this is kind of what we were talking about earlier in terms of, I'm going to go remodel a room. I'm going to rebuild the fence. I'm going to donate clothing. Up the refrigerator that we bought together is shooting craps, and I need to replace it. What does it mean when we are, we're physically still here, and there are things that we have to attend to, or situations that come up that we have to address. How does it, understanding that we're not replacing or erasing the person that we're lost. It is another step on the journey.
Well, and like I said earlier too, in a lot of these cases, it's stuff that you would be doing anyways together. And I mean, this is the way I use it when I'm out looking at flooring, or when I was out looking at appliances. And I don't do it when they're standing right next to me, but I'll be like, well, hon, what do you think about this one? You didn't like this about the last thing that we got, And that helps me with that process of, everything's going to be changed. It's not going to be the same. But if he was still here, the refrigerator would probably still be doing what it's doing.
Exactly.
And we'd have to get a new one.
And I think the other thing I like about, Praise for his previous books, where in this one, coming from, now Saint Mother Teresa, this book is a source of reflection over the most mysterious and beautiful moments which awaits us all. It helps people to understand that death is full surrender, the full surrender of ourselves to love, like falling into the arms of God. And I mean, I know not everybody is spiritual or believe in God or heaven or hell or whatnot, and I fully respect that. So looking at that particular passage, obviously coming from Mother Teresa who believed in God, but even falling into the arms of whatever, even taking that last passage out, that it is a full surrender of love, for ourselves. But
well, and we're going to go through like the first part I marked up these chapters, what is meaning. The first section is every loss has meaning. And I think that if eventually when we get to that point, because you're not going to be there in the beginning. Well, you might be, but I wouldn't be. But like, even in the 7th chapter is on suicide, and I heard a quote from somebody else that's kind of similar to this. But even like I have said, Bobby's death by suicide is not going to be the last chapter of his life. This is, why, this is what we're doing, And there's a quote by K. Redfield Jameson: "Suicide is not a blot on anyone's name. It's just a tragedy." But we have, we're going to go through several of these chapters. We're not going to go through every single one like we have in the ones in the books in the past, but we're going to highlight several of these in here. And again, you can get this book off Amazon. They don't have smile.amazon.com anymore, but I'll put a link on our website that if you click through that link, then it'll go through our Amazon Associates account, so you can it'll still donate a little bit of money that way easily. We thought you had, and I thought you had it too, because I thought we brought these books in last year or the year before. But I just called up Books A Million yesterday and was like, hey, do you have this book? They had one. One book. And I'm like, okay, hold that book.
Come and get it. And it was interesting as I'm looking at it, I was like, wait a minute now, this cover looks good. This cover looks like I'm going to laugh if I go home and I find that I really do have this book.
Well, if you do, then we have an extra
We have an extra one at the foundation, yes.
Yes.
But, as we, and I know we're winding down time here, we get to our positive quote and everything like that. But I think, thinking about a good springboard or segue into next week, where this book starts off with a quote from who Mr. Kessler said was his mentor and co-author. Elizabeth Kubler-Ross said, "Death does not need to be a catastrophic, destructive thing. Indeed, it can be viewed as one of the most constructive, positive, and creative elements of culture and life." But then, it does follow up that most of us don't experience that way. And, when I read that, I'm like, that is a really interesting, I hate to use the word spin, but in this particular case, I'll use it. It's a very interesting spin on death, because unfortunately, most of us, when we think of death, it is destructive. It is catastrophic. We feel like we can't go on, or we're not going to be able to go on. Life is never going to be the same. Well, in reality, you're correct.
Right, that's true.
In certain
it's
aspects,
not going to be the same.
Life is not always going to be the same. However, it doesn't have to be catastrophic. It doesn't have to be, although it is life-altering, life-changing, it doesn't always have to be in a negative way.
Right. So before we go, I want to read this quote from the beginning of the first chapter, What is Meaning, and it's by Rose Kennedy. "Birds sing after a storm. Why shouldn't people feel as free to delight in whatever sunlight remains to them?"
And that, I think, is, those two passages from the book is a good starting point to the discussion about, what he's talking about here in terms of finding meaning, in that, replacing fences, replacing refrigerators, changing room decor, donating stuff. It is not erasing, that person. I mean, unfortunately for us, our loved ones, were not, or Pat was an organ donor, but because of the manner he left us, he couldn't,
Right.
couldn't donate his organs. But let's think about that. We're taking, in some way, shape, or form, we're taking a part of that person, and they're living on. So, yeah.
It'll be a good book to get into next week.
It will be a really good book to get into next week. I can't wait.
Yeah, I'm glad that we decided on this book. So, but two, always remember to have those emergency numbers in your phone. The call or text 988. It's really easy to remember, but still, I would still have them in your phone. Speed dial, all these numbers. You just never know. And again, but if somebody is right now, if they're in dire need, get them to the emergency room. Just don't take the chance, don't wait, and just be there and listen.
I'd rather have somebody upset with me because I asked them than I'm grappling with the why didn't I ask them.
Right, and going to their funeral.
Exactly.
So we're going to end it with our positive quote.
Positive thinking is more than just a tagline. It changes the way we behave. And I firmly believe that when I am positive, it only makes me feel, but not only makes me feel better, but it also makes those around me feel better. And I picked that quote for that reason. I could be, negative Nelly, and people are either not going to want to be around me, or now they have to, spend their energy, propping me up. I'd rather be, let's look at things in a positive way. Let's, lift up each other. And as we end our show every week,
There's always hope. Thank you.